Hi, I'm Sherry Goodwin, and today I'm here to respond to the question, how do you qualify a lead? How do you know if the person that you're speaking with wants, needs, and is willing to pay for your product or service? As you know, this is a really important question to consider because it really impacts how we spend our time and who we talk to, who we have conversations with, what networking events we may attend, and who we choose to speak to at those networking events. So there's really 4 areas that you have to address when you're qualifying a lead. And these are need, authority, timing, and budget. So need, authority, timing, and budget. So the first thing is need. You have to establish if this person really has a need. What are their pain points? What problem would your product or service be solving for this person? I mean, in other words, why should they be having a conversation with you about your business? So you really want to know who these folks are. And the first part of establishing the need is to know your target market. Do some profiling, do some surveys of your ideal client. Try to get a really good understanding of who these people are, what their pain points are, what drives them, what motivates them, what their preferences are. Take the time to do that background research, because the more that you do that, the more you're going to know almost immediately when you're speaking or in proximity to your target market or your ideal client. So make sure you establish that need. Then you want to find out if the person that you're talking to has the authority to be able to make a purchasing decision. So if you're a solopreneur and you're just working one-on-one with somebody, most likely the person that you're talking to is the person of authority who is in charge of the budget, who can make purchasing decisions on their own behalf or on behalf of the company. So think about that. Sometimes it's really interesting with this authority piece, because sometimes what happens is even though someone has a title as a chief executive officer or senior director or vice president or something, and you're assuming that they have purchasing authority, they may not. Or if they do, there may be other people of influence that they consult with before they make a decision. And these could be people of all sorts. It could be their administrative assistant, it could be their wife, it could be their husband, their spouse, it could be friends, other folks that they trust in their sphere of influence, their circle of friends. So think about that, because those folks are also going to have some weight into the decision maker. So you want to make sure that you don't just assume that the person that you're talking to is solely responsible for making the decision to purchase your product or service. The next thing is you want to make sure to address timing. You want to figure out if there's an urgent need for your product or service, because the more urgent your product or the more urgent the need is, the more likely they're going to buy. And you want to make sure to find out whether or not they're just kind of exploring this new product or service or this new option for them, or if they're really ready to make a purchase. So you want to ask some questions to try to figure that out. You just ask them straight out, how urgent is it for you to make this purchase right now? Or what are you looking to achieve in the next 3 months? That'll kind of give you some information on how urgent it is for the person to buy. What does your life look like now without this thing? And how would your life improve if you had it? You can kind of frame questions around that. You also want to see how eager they are to have some type of transformation occur in their life or their business. So if they've been struggling with something for a while and that's kind of become their status quo, that's just become what they tolerate, you may need to do a little bit more work there to actually take them to the place of possibility where they don't have to tolerate this thing anymore. Because what happens is people start to just accept a certain level in their life, because it's hard to move against that level into something new, into something greater and better. There's always a little resistance there. So you need to be sensitive to that, but also offer them that vision of what could be and the fact that it could happen now. They don't have to wait 10 years. One of the things that happens in my business, a lot of people will say, oh, I have this long-term goal, but I'm not going to share that with you yet because I know it's so far out there it doesn't even seem reasonable or realistic. Well, that's a story that they're telling themselves over and over to kind of keep them safe and not having to step out of the comfort zone and take that big step and entertain that vision for the future could come a lot faster if they made a commitment to specific action. So you are there to help inspire that process and inspire that vision and show what's possible in the near term. So you ask them questions, how much flexibility do you have in your timeline? If you're doing something on a corporate level, you want to figure out deadlines and deliverable dates and things like that so that you can forecast out and make sure that your product or service is actually going to be able to be delivered within that time frame. Really, really important. And then the final piece of qualifying a lead is a discussion about money, is a discussion about budget. So you want to ask folks, what kind of a budget range are you expecting? What are your budget requirements? How much are you willing to invest, or what have you invested in the past? So you want to make sure that you get a sense of the money. You want to have that money conversation this is before you actually ask for the sale and before you present your fee. Because you want to get a sense. You always want to be on the offense, not the defense. You want to be proactive, not reactive. So you're always trying to get as much information as possible from your folks so that then you can digest that, take that back, even right there on the spot, process it in your head and say, which option that I have, which program or which service, what do I have that's going to best fit within this budget? And you can go ahead and speak to that at that point. So you also want to make sure that if your product or service is a little bit pricey, that you make it easy for someone to buy. So think about payment plans. You can separate things into 3 equal payments over a 6-month period or a 3-month period if you want to divide that. But I would incentivize folks to pay the full amount up front. So say you had a $1,000 program, the investment point would be $1,000, but if they wanted to pay over time, you could break that up into 3 equal payments of more than $1,000, because you do need to be paid for the fact that there is this flexibility in a payment plan. So you actually would have the payment plan would be a little bit more than an outright cash purchase. So those are some things to think about, and so remember, in qualifying a lead, there's 4 different areas. There's need, authority, timing, and budget. And once you get used to having conversations around those 4 areas and kind of having that dance, you'll start to see immediately who your ideal clients are and see their eagerness to buy from you, and you'll know exactly where you're supposed to be. So good luck with that.